Should I declutter my wedding dress? Have you decluttered yours? What do we even do about things that are hard to declutter? Now, let's jump into a couple of other questions I have, and then we'll come back to the wedding dress. These are the hard things for many to declutter. Now, these sentimental things, they were my dad's, and he passed away, unfortunately, in 2022. Maybe I'm not using this camera that doesn't work anymore, but it is sentimental. That doesn't mean I should keep everything that's sentimental. So a lot of people might be wondering, how do you go through your keepsakes? How do you go through things that you've had for a long time? Now, just recently, I actually went through the things underneath my stairs, and this included a lot of keepsakes. Things from my childhood, my kids, trinkets, things from departed family members. Have you ever found a check for $500 16 years late? All sorts of things. So I think that you're gonna really like how you get into decluttering sentimental items. So I made a video not too long ago about how we had a flood. So just before the flood, we had started minimizing things. And the people who were taking care of all of our stuff after the flood, they actually picked everything up, put it into boxes and bins, and it ended up under the stairs. So that is one area that we never really finished decluttering. So I knew I had to do it. And I have to say I was a little worried that I would be getting emotional, but we'll worry about that later. So decluttering storage areas of the house can be pretty overwhelming. You know, there's all sorts of stuff in there. And I did it, and it was not that horrible. Well, not really. Let me show you. Oh boy, well, there's a lot in there. So I'm going to be tackling the stuff that is under our stairs today. Now, we actually had a flood a couple of years ago. I've mentioned it in a few videos. A lot of things were boxed up, and then they were thrown under the stairs here by the mover people. And I just never got around to decluttering this particular area. So I would come down, grab things for Halloween or whatever decorations I needed, Christmas wrapping and stuff, and it still would just be left like that. I would throw it back and be like, I'm gonna get to it. More importantly, at the back of it is where I have a lot of my own personal sentimental items from probably more my childhood. So I'm going to go through those, and I will show you how I'm going to tackle those items. And please don't mind if there's a bit of glare from my glasses in it. So I'm going to show you a couple of tips that I use when decluttering. And I have a PDF that you can download. It has all of like the step-by-step way that I declutter. I've updated it recently, and I think that you will find it very helpful. So the first thing that I always do when I'm decluttering is, so I don't get overwhelmed, because a lot of people get overwhelmed when they are decluttering, is to set a timer. I like to set a 30-minute timer normally. This time it was 45 minutes because I knew I was going out. But I set a 30-minute timer because instead of spending 4 to 6 to like 28 hours decluttering, just spend 30 minutes. You can even come back later that day to finish it, or to do a bit more, or the next day. I have to pick up my son in 45 minutes. So I'm going to shoot for that. I don't usually get overwhelmed with decluttering like a lot of people do. But if that's you, definitely start with 30-minute increments. Don't make a huge deal of it. So I'm going to start loading this stuff up. Second tip, get your bins of donation, a keeping things bin, and garbage/recycling ready to go as well. Okay, so I am going to obviously come across some garbage, some recycling, things that I'm donating, things that I'm keeping, maybe a few things that I'm going to give away. Actually, definitely things I'm going to give away, because some of these things are family members and I just don't want to keep them anymore. My brother's coming. He's got a box of stuff that he's going to be taking, so that's great. Oh boy. Got a lot of bags, but that's okay because there are 5 of us. Oh goodness. Okay. So this box looks like mostly a mixture of my husband's and my stuff. Now, I don't think he's going to want to keep a lot of this stuff. I probably won't keep any of this stuff that's mine because I don't need certificates from nursing school anymore. No. So I'm going to quickly make a pile for him. Actually, I'm going to take things of mine out of here, leave his stuff in here, and then everything that's his can stay in here. So a lot of random little cards have been thrown in here. Some Christmas cards, more Christmas cards, and it looks like the rest is his, so that's great. Now, going through old things can be super hard. They can remind us of our past. They can bring up good memories. They can bring up bad memories. But you always need to ask yourself these questions when you are decluttering. Does this bring back a good memory? Am I just feeling a rush of emotion? Maybe it's not even a good memory, but you're just like, I'm having like nostalgia, right? That doesn't necessarily mean you should keep it. Also, ask yourself if you even like that item. Or is it just something you have a memory for? Is it worth keeping that item for that memory? On the off chance that you will forget that memory, I don't usually think that's the case. Now, with baby things, I will get to in a minute. That is a whole new can of worms. But remember, ultimately, the past is the past. I was feeling it that day, but I knew I was ready to let a lot of things go. Okay, there we go. Okay, this is all my stuff here. I almost am kind of dreading this just because I'm like, am I going to have feelings as a result of going through this? So I'm just looking through an old sketchbook I had when I was younger. I don't think I need to keep that. This my cousin made me when I was little. Cute, but I don't need it. She gave it to me when I was like a baby. So I'm not going to keep that. This is from a shopping center in Kelowna, and we got some doll clothes. Not going to keep the doll clothes. This is a shirt of my husband's that's very holy. I think that is going to have to go in the garbage. This video is going to kill my dad. God bless him, he wants to declutter, but he has trouble with it. So this is a Micro Machines poster. These are all my brother's. So as I'm going through this stuff, I'm asking myself, number one, do I want to leave this to any descendants? Like, are they going to want to be going through and dealing with this stuff and having to throw it out themselves? No. But also, if it's something that I really value and want to keep, I will keep it. But for now, I don't have anything. And let's see. See, now this is interesting. This is a person who I met in a thing called Encounters with Canada, and we got to go to Ottawa and meet people. And so there was this really sweet girl. She was she was probably 2 feet tall, and I'm not joking. She had some kind of disability. Maybe it was a form of dwarfism. So she's written me this gorgeous little letter. So I was wondering about her, and I was wondering what her name was. So now I have that. So this is a letter that I might actually keep. So there you go. I'm keeping something. I'm keeping a letter. That is going to be worth something. I don't know. Look at this Rolling Stone with Kurt Cobain on it. Wow. Okay, I need to save these to show my kids. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. I don't know. So a funny thing, trinkets are another reminder of the past. I found a box filled with coins. Just has little trinkets I don't need. So I think I'll donate this. I found a hanger with a bunch of necklaces. Here are all of my necklaces. So my parents, they got a divorce just before I had my first son. They split up. And so they ended up packing up my stuff and sending it out here because, like so many young people, I left stuff there. I think this is the first time I'm going through it, and I'm okay. Like, I'm not feeling like sad. Probably just going to donate all of this. You remember when CK1 came on a necklace? This, like, I probably got that in like 1995. Oh my gosh, you know, it doesn't even smell that bad. And I knew that these were things I did not need to hang on to because really, like the trinkets, they're still trinkets. Just take up space as clutter. And in my opinion, I don't want it. I'm happy to let that stuff go. Now, getting into old toys, that can be kind of hard. I think quite often we feel like we're hanging on to these old toys for our kids or for our grandkids, like our own personal toys. And I remember playing with old toys that were my dad's when I was a kid at my grandpa's house. And you know, that was nice, but there were only a couple of them, which I think is great. I came across some of my old toys. This was my pound puppy. You know, I remember putting my hand in this and it was a nice snug feeling. It's almost like one of those weighted blankets. So I'll donate that. You know, I'm gonna take the pound puppy. It just occurred to me. I've got like a very old Cabbage Patch Kid with Xavier Roberts on her little bottom. And I'm gonna check and see if there's any value in those before I donate them. And actually my niece is coming. I'll see if she wants them. Donating that. Here's my other Cabbage Patch. Look at her hair. Still, I had it in a little braid. And I basically think that I'm like decluttering almost all of my toys. I'm gonna keep one or two, these Cabbage Patch Kids. I'm actually gonna check the price of them, see if they're worth anything. I will also see if my niece wants them, see if she wants to have these old Cabbage Patch Kids before I let them go. But I don't really think I'm gonna hang on to them. I might keep like one. I don't know. You always kind of wonder what the future holds. Like when your grandkids, like, what will the future be like? And they'll be like, what is this, Grandma? Right? So I might hang on to one, but I'm not keeping much. So we're going to get into the baby thing in a minute. But first I want to talk about departed family members. Now this can be a sticky point. And funny enough, in my family, my own grandparents are about to move to an apartment, independent living. And my mom and my aunts are going through tons of their things right now. And I think this Swedish death cleaning is helpful for this. So people can decide if they want to keep anything, but ultimately most of that stuff needs to be donated. Like they can decide what my grandparents are taking with them. And then if anybody else wants anything, there are a couple of things I'm interested in, just like one or two Christmas things, but for the most part, that's it. And then the rest of it, it should be donated or sold. So I just don't think we should be hanging on to things that don't have any meaning. For me, I had that elephant perfume from my grandma. I remember this was my great grandma's because she loved elephants. I have an elephant upstairs that reminds me of her. Not that I knew her that well, but it still makes me think of her and I like that. So I'm not gonna keep this. I'll donate it. If somebody wants it, they can have it. And what's funny is I have like this elephant up here and I bought it, but it still reminds me of my great grandma, even though I didn't even know her, but I know she liked elephants. So it still makes me think of her, which then makes me think of my grandpa, which I think is great. But I don't really like to hold on to belongings just for that reason. So I'm not going to keep that perfume. So a lot of things are old, but not all of the old things are sentimental. So I'm going to touch on photos in a second, but first I went through my old yearbooks. I'm going to hang on to those. They don't take up a lot of space. I think I actually only found a couple and I know there were more, so I don't know. Photos should be scanned ultimately. My plan is to hire someone one day to get them scanned and then I can quickly decide what I want to keep. And then that, you know, first of all, safekeeping. You can make albums if you want, if you feel like people will go through them, but for the most part, that's just not my style. But I don't see any problem with that. I know what this is. This is a Christmas card we had done, and it pretty much just needs to be put in the garbage because we ordered too many, which is why you need to be careful with when you're ordering things, making sure that you don't order too many. Pretty much just going to not do that in the future. It's my little baby. Oh, so cute. Me. I got 7 minutes. See if I can get this done before I get my son, but I am almost done. I'm just gonna haul this stuff out of here. Photos and cards, and then clean it out and put stuff back. Baby stuff can be hard. And I actually have a video coming up of decluttering my baby's things. Well, he's 12, but I mean, it's still his baby things. But we can't keep it all. Why? Why can't we keep it all? Well, I've seen people who have had bags and bags of their baby's clothes. And I just don't think that that is something you want to do. You don't want to have bags of clothes for your babies. You don't want to be like, here are a bunch of clothes to your kids when they're grown up. These are your baby clothes. They're not going to want them. Keep a couple of things. Okay, here are some baby things that I found. This is a little shirt my son used to wear, but I don't need to keep these. I will, you know what I will keep of my baby stuff is I will keep the little shoes. There's something about the little shoes I really like. So I'll keep those. And these sandals. So I'm keeping a few things, right? This was the cutest little baby Superman. It's so cute. It was like SPF UPF, and it had a little thing. I don't think I know of anybody with a baby that could use this, so I'll probably just donate that too. But nothing else. Little overalls, adorable, but I'm not gonna keep them. I do have some ultrasound pictures I just found. I'll keep those. This is a cute little hat. I think this used to be my hat. This is the sort of thing I would maybe hang on to for a grandchild. It's adorable and so soft, so I don't keep much, but I would maybe keep this. Okay, I'm gonna give it a little sweep. And I'll vacuum it. I personally find going through the school things harder. Okay, so now I am done getting everything out of there. I've cleaned it all. This is just one last bin here, and it is of things that I saved from my kids from school. So this is for my oldest son, but it looks like a couple of other things have been dumped in here. So I'm just going to get rid of these last few things, and then I'm going to put these right at the back because they are like the keepsake boxes for the kids. And so I have the stuff at the back in the least accessible spot. So that's like this little footprint. I don't have a lot of those. Handprint. Oh, I love them. Okay, books. Awesome. Oh, my old CDs. One thing that I will recommend that you keep for your kids is any of their journals, because they are hilarious to look through later on. I was on my bike, then accidentally, spelled A-X-A-D-E-N-T-L-Y. Then I did a front flip. I was on the sidewalk, then bam! Next thing I know, I was laying on the road. A car was coming. My two wounded legs were hard to get off the ground. We were jumping on the trampoline, so he fell off. But then he saved his life. We all laughed. L-A-U-F-H-T. And it turned onto a dating website. I screamed and turned off the computer. I actually have a few of my own things from school that I found when I was going through things, like that scroll. Oh my goodness. Look at this. Look at the timeline of my life. It wasn't that far off. So 2 days old, 15 years old. I guess I had a tennis playing boyfriend. Then I wanted to be a pediatrician when I was 25, but I actually did become a nurse. Swap getting married when I was 25 with becoming a nurse when I was 35 when I graduated. And then 33, and look at that. There are 5 kids there. 5, no. 3 was good. 3 was good. And so I looked at it. I thought it was great. I took a video of it, but then I decluttered it. I take photos of the artwork that my kids did, and I keep a lot of their journals. Now, the journals that they had when they were a little bit older, like probably like grade 2, 3, 4, when they're writing really funny things, I like to keep those because they're great and they don't take up a lot of space. Like, I am not about decluttering everything to do with your history or your kids' history. It's just about keeping the right things. When I was done getting all of that out from under the stairs, I then put it all back, and I put the things at the furthest back, like where we keep the kids' school keepsakes. I keep those at the back, and then I had a box of things for my husband and I. There was not much by the time we were both done going through things, which is great. Like just like a couple of yearbooks, photos, not a lot of stuff. I put it right next to the totes for the kids for school, and then we can just throw stuff in it after he goes through his stuff and after I just go through the photos and then the yearbooks. But I'm not keeping much, so that's great. It can all go in there. Okay, I'm putting the Halloween decorations back here. And I'm putting them facing this way with the narrow end so that we can come and grab them when it is Halloween, so I don't have to like dig through a bunch of things. Plus I can still reach the box of things that we're keeping, which isn't much, so that's nice. And then I have my Halloween decorations. I had the Easter decorations. the Christmas wrapping stuff, and then the luggage. So ultimately, I'm super happy, and then we donated a ton of stuff. This is where I'm going to put the Easter decor. There's really not a lot. We have some baskets and just the grass that you put in it, the paper grass, and then just some like streamers. So I'm going to throw those in here. Put them right in front of the Halloween stuff, so that's easy to grab out. This is my Christmas wrapping paper. Now, I've got a few of these, which are actually my mom's wrapping paper. The rest, I followed what Diane in Denmark said and just bought the stuff from IKEA because it's great. You can use it for birthdays, anything, and Christmas, and then you just decorate or make it fancy with the bow. Okay, I've just got my Christmas wrapping and regular wrapping paper there. Here are bows, so they're right on top for presents and stuff. And I've also got some ribbon there, so I've got 2 totes of those. I'm actually going to narrow that down at Christmas, so watch for a video for that, but that's coming soon. All right, so I've got Christmas wrapping paper. These are for wine bottles. I'm gonna try to get rid of those. Somebody gave them to us. The kids' totes, a big one for my husband and I, Halloween and Easter decorations, and luggage. So this is awesome. And now let me show you everything we are donating. That is being donated. This is recycling. That's my husband's bike. He has it down here. We're not getting rid of that. This whole box, that box, both of these empty totes, that's garbage. And then those are pictures I'm going to look through. Oh my gosh, these are fun. These are pictures from my husband and I when we went down the coast of California. There's my hubby, handsome. That was our pre-moon. We actually eloped 3 months after our first date. Hilarious. That was a bit of a gamble, let me tell you. Oh, I got a lot of really nice photos. I can't wait to show him these. Oh, he's so cute. Oh my goodness. And Disneyland. We drove down the coast to Disneyland, and then we came back up on the interstate because we definitely do not want to be doing that long, windy trip again. But very fun. Have you ever found a check for $500 16 years late? This is definitely a stale check. That sucks so much. Oh my gosh. You know what? Somebody in my comments said, make sure that you check through cards before you declutter them. Now, sentimentality, it's kind of like a mischievous unicorn prancing through a field of nostalgia, leaving a trail of glittery tears and whimsical sighs in its wake. It's a magical creature that can make even the most stoic of individuals break into a spontaneous karaoke session of Domo Arigato, Mr. Roboto sessions while clutching their worn out teddy bear. Another area that we can struggle with is letting go of houses, places, and things from deep in our past. You can't hold on to things that are no longer serving you. And this is what I'm always trying to share with people, because honestly, it does not help you to be holding on to things so tight because you can't let them go. Yes, it is painful. Yes, it is sad. But in the end, it's good to let things go when it is time to move on. Now, this one stung a lot, and I will never go back to this house. And this time it was actually pretty heartbreaking. Now, people think that for me, letting go is always easy. On my videos, they will say, wow, I wish it was so easy. But honestly, it isn't always easy. Or they think that if it's hard to let something go, that you shouldn't. And that is also not true. So I want to talk today about letting go of a very sentimental item for me. And hopefully it will help you learn to let go of sentimental items, things, whatever, in the future as well. So we're really going to get into how letting go of a sentimental item. Sometimes you need to actually really spend time and process things. And just to come to terms with that, you need to let it go, because some things you really, really shouldn't keep. And this is an example of that. Now, I remember when the conversations started arising about letting this go, but my brain honestly could not go there. Me, the minimalist, was like, no, we're not letting this go. Now, this was the most stable, constant house that I had known for the last 29 years. I remember family get-togethers there, people on the deck, the food, the laughing, the smoke, the memories of Grandpa laughing. I mean, when my grandpa would laugh, it was just amazing. Like, you knew it was so funny, just the thought of him laughing. Now, my brother, my cousins, and I, we would play in the hot tub downstairs, and then we would get out, and we would play a game of pool, and then we would watch movies. We had so much fun. And it was kind of like the type of house where the kids just go in the basement and you're not exactly forgotten about, but the adults are having fun upstairs with the other adults. So it's good. It's fun down there. So there are a lot of memories associated with this house. Some of them go way back and some of them just carried right on through. And the ultimate in a cozy house, I mean, really cozy, warm, inviting. I mean, at Christmas, it was honestly magical. Grandma's decorating was whimsical. Her baking was beyond delicious. And thank God for a child's metabolism I had at the time. That's all I have to say. Yeah, like it just really sticks with me. Like this house it feels like it's a part of me. And of course, I knew this house wouldn't always be with us, like obviously. But to be honest, I'm kind of surprised we even had it in our house as long as we did. I think that this really is a good example of the Swedish death cleaning fear of death instinct that Margareta Magnusson talks about. And I mention this all the time because to me, these really hit home for me, the clutter instinct, the hoarding instinct. But this in particular, the fear of death instinct, this is when it's really hard to let go of sentimental things. And this house is a perfect example of that. Like for me, I am having to basically let go of my childhood during this process, even though I'm like in my 40s, but also letting go of my grandparents and what their life was and all of the other things. So a few years ago, the dreary Vancouver Island dark winter started really affecting my grandpa more, and he would be much better in the summer, but in the winter it was really getting to him, and he started not feeling well, and he had started having trouble word finding, and he would call me my mom's daughter, like he couldn't remember my name sometimes. But funny, like people with Alzheimer's, they kind of have a way of like working around it. And he's such a smart guy that you wouldn't even notice it if you didn't think about it. So as a nurse though, I just have a way of accepting changes like this. And I sort of just keep my distance from the feelings involved, honestly. Like I know these things happen and you're just sort of like, as a nurse, you're like, yeah, this is what's happening. And so Grandpa started not eating well and he was getting really skinny. And my mom started suggesting that they might want to move to a seniors building where the food was provided amongst other things, because then they could be more like taken care of and more healthy, and it would be easier for them not to be dealing with the stress of the house. So again, I thought, no, this is their house. They should stay here and help can come in. And honestly, I did talk to colleagues about this and they said, no, it is good often if people can just get like help to come in and bring food and get house cleaners and stuff, but it just wasn't working out. And Alzheimer's, it just is, unfortunately, the thing about Alzheimer's is no matter what, it is a decline. And although you can slow it down, it can't be stopped. Now, then COVID hit. Now, this is not all depressing, so hang tight with me. But then COVID hit. So we all wanted to keep them safe in their house, obviously. And of course, busy me, I visited them even less than I already had been before, of course, because of COVID. But so this spring, my mom and her sisters, along with my grandparents, decided to sell the house and that they would move into an apartment with all of the amenities. So they had a couple of realtors come by, and again, like you're just sort of like, oh yeah. I honestly, I thought this would take a while. Like anytime we've sold our house, it took a while. But I remember when the sign went up in early August, and I was caught a little bit off guard, honestly. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night though, and I could not fall back asleep because I was like, that house will be gone soon. And I honestly, I didn't even realize how much or how permanent that would be though. So pretty much I was coming to the realization that the time in the house for our family was over. It wasn't going to go on forever, even though it had felt like it was going to forever. And within just a few days, they had 3 offers and they sold it over their asking price. So that was good for them. But the possession date was in 1 month. And so my mom and her sisters worked very hard at packing the house. I offered to help, but they wanted to be the ones that were sorting all the stuff, which is fine. And that is another story. And we will talk about that in weeks to come, about how to deal with all of the stuff. But for now, let's just say it was a lot of stuff, a lifetime of stuff, and we will be talking about it. But it was crazy to go into their house and just look at the cabinet where I used to lay in front of when I was a kid, like 8 years old, listening to Christmas music. And I can still remember the sound of like the kind of the magnet of this cabinet closing. So this was actually the process where I really started realizing that it was time to let it go. And I mentally just naturally started letting it go. You will let things go. It might not feel like you will be able to, but you will. You don't need to keep a lot of things. I mean, for me, I don't get crazy sentimental, but for some things I do. And this is an example of that. So when I walked through the house for the last time, I remember saying goodbye to every room and I took videos. But I have to say though, I felt less sad than I thought I would. And this is the thing, like things had changed in their house. They grew older, we all grew older, and you can't recapture what is lost. So holding on to the house when it was no longer serving any of us would not have been fair to anyone, not to my grandparents, my mom, my aunts, like myself even, like no one. It doesn't serve anyone, not the house. And the memories from their house are my memories. And I can honestly say that no house had or probably will ever hold such intense, strong memories for me. And this is an example of why keeping this sentimental thing would be a mistake. Keeping this house would be a mistake, like so many other things are. You need to keep these things in mind when you are decluttering. Does it serve you? Is it good in the long term? And I don't live in the house that we brought our babies home to. You know, my parents, they moved on from their house, but I have all of those memories. I don't need things. I now don't have my grandparents' house anymore. There was unfortunately a bit of a falling out with the people that bought it. And so I don't see myself going back there, but in all honesty, I don't want to. You can't hold on to things forever. I feel at peace now. Maybe just a little sad, but I do feel at peace. And the thing is, like, you can't keep things that aren't serving you. That house was not serving them. And I make this sound all about me, but I just wanted to share my part of the story. It's just so interesting how eventually I started making peace with things, and I did not even realize it, but it just started happening naturally, and then I was able to let it go. You can't hold on to things that are no longer serving you. And this is what I'm always trying to share with people, because honestly, it does not help you to be holding on to things so tight because you can't let them go. Yes, it is painful. Yes, it is sad. But in the end, it's good to let things go when it is time to move on. So even if it's just something small and you're like, this isn't serving me anymore, you gotta let it go. Or if it's something as big and as important as a precious childhood home, you need to let it go when the time to let it go comes. Now, one of the biggest reasons we have trouble letting go of things is not necessarily because we are sentimental. It's actually a lot deeper than that. Now, this topic is super, super important, so you've got to stick around to the end because I'm going to dive into something really deep. Now, I promise it won't be scary and it won't be depressing. Now, letting go of the past is a challenge for so many people, probably most people. When I found out that my dad had passed away, I was obviously upset. Now, one of the things that bothered me, aside from the total tragic loss, but it was also how he had not prioritized his happiness the way that I feel he should have. And I think he even knew that that's how I felt. Well, I know he did because we talked about it. I'll get more into that in a second, but I want to explore with you the topic of the fear of death and how it relates to how you live your life and what you surround yourself with. It's such an important topic. Now, I have talked about the Swedish death cleaning before, and one of the actual topics, the actual deep down meaning, cannot be overstated just how important it is. Now, Margareta Magnusson's book, Dostating, Swedish death cleaning, she describes 3 instincts. The clutter instinct, wanting your things surrounding you, the hoarding instinct, where you keep things just in case and it helps you feel secure, and the fear of death instinct. I myself relate to this one most of all. Even now more than ever, I would say. It's complex, and as they all are, but I really want to really deep dive into this one today because I think it is such an important topic. I think the fear of death instinct is ever-present knowledge and awareness that time is fleeting, moving constantly, and that life is finite. We all deal with this in one way or another. Now, as an emergency nurse, I have seen so many lives end early, way too early. And I've also seen something that is equally as tragic, and that is people not recognizing how important life is and how they should live it to the fullest. I've actually seen lifestyle choices that have prevented people from walking across the room. And that is why I run on my treadmill. And it's just because I can. And if you can't, I'm not saying you should, and I'm not saying everybody should, and I recognize everybody comes from a different place. What I am saying is that we need to harness and live life while we can. Now, if you can change something to make your life better, I want you to do it. Okay, so the fear of death instinct with clutter is so interesting. I see this one as a huge reason why so many people keep sentimental things. It's like admitting that we aren't going to be here forever. And it's almost like refusing to move on. You're almost like holding yourself hostage in the past. You're not letting go of things from your kids, maybe when they were little. Maybe you're kind of refusing to believe that they're growing up, that time is going on. If you keep those little pants, maybe you're in a way feeling like you're like keeping them forever. Like obviously, you know you're not keeping them little, but even if you don't think this on a conscious level, you might be thinking it subconsciously. It's also a deep visceral feeling when we let certain things we are attached to go. We are deeply attached to our children, our parents, or even certain stages of life. I had this adorable little Superman outfit that I bought my middle son when he was a baby. Now, because we lived where it was windy and chilly, he only had a chance to wear it once or twice. I held onto it forever. I'm not saying you need to get rid of absolutely everything, but I didn't really need to hang on to this. He didn't really wear it much. It wasn't like it was something super sentimental as far as he goes. What I am saying is you need to be selective about what you keep. I have kept a few items from my kids' past and from my past, and I will be keeping a few things from my dad's past. But deciding to let an item go, it might just represent the end of a season, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but denial is not just a river in Egypt. So one example of the fear of death that a lot of people don't recognize is it can be something as simple as keeping something from your kids. So like, for example, my kids, I had these lunch boxes for them, and like this one is actually like kind of old, like my oldest. They're molded. They were great because I thought it was like perfect. You know, you just throw the food in them. They're watertight, or they were, and they would hold all sorts of things. There was like less waste. It was so easy. You could just throw them in the dishwasher. I thought like they were perfect. However, the problem is the kids, they've grown out of them. And so if I wanted to be like, hey, my kids, this is their lunchbox, I'm gonna hang on to it. They're not fully grown. The thing is, they're out of that stage of life. They don't want these lunch boxes anymore. They want lunch bags, just like a paper bag. I can't try to keep them in that time forever. And I can't try to keep myself in that time forever. The fear of death would be like, I'm not letting that go. Or exercising that instinct would be, I'm not letting that go. By deciding, hey, I'm going to donate these, some other parent can enjoy these lunch boxes, then that is so much better. And that is like recognizing, hey, time moves. Other great things will be coming. Some people, like my dear dad, find it hard to let go of anything at all. Now, my dad was not hoarder level. I don't think he held on to garbage or anything, but he did have trouble letting go of almost anything. I remember once he told me that he was the person that things came to. And it was just really hard to let anything go. Now, I think that if he were maybe to really dive deep, he might recognize that everybody has things handed to them, because people generally feel guilty decluttering and they feel better if they can give it to somebody else. Let me know if you can relate to this, if you have done this, if you have felt this way, or if people have given you stuff. Now, once he actually told me how hard it was to declutter a ladle. But when he had to let it go, he was actually so proud of himself, which I think is good. Like, what did that mean? What are you sacrificing when you can't let anything go? It goes deep, and sometimes professional help is a good idea. But no matter what, you are sacrificing something. So what are you sacrificing if you choose not to sacrifice the clutter? By choosing to keep the clutter, the things that you don't use, that aren't serving you and are more than likely adding to your stress, what are you sacrificing? I once said to my dad that it seems hazardous to keep everything around you so you can hang on to every memory and sacrifice your present. And that really struck him. You are choosing not to be happy. Not everything you let go of feels great to let go of, but not every decision you make is an easy one. Some are, which is good. Not every decision is a happy one. Making the choice. I really, really want to impress on you how important it is to make the choice to choose your life over all of your memories. You need to choose your future over your past. It is very hard for some people to let go of the past, but you need to recognize, you need to face the fact that life is moving and you want to enjoy all of it, don't you? You don't want to just spend all of your time living in the past. Don't sacrifice your happiness for some things, even if they are sentimental things. I mean, keep some things for sure. Keep the things that matter. Keep the treasures. The great Peter Walsh describes treasures as all of your treasures together can fit on your dining room table. So for some people, that's not a lot of treasures, but don't keep the clutter. Declutter that? So you've started decluttering, it's going well, you're on a bit of a roll, but boom, you come across some sentimental things and your world is leveled. You don't know what to do. I've been there. I have made some decluttering mistakes. I've also been kind of like stopped and paralyzed at the decluttering when I just don't know what to do. Pumpkin! I think some people feel the pressure to declutter absolutely everything. They think that it just has got to go and they feel like they can't keep anything, and that's so wrong. Because the thing about sentimental things is like some of them we keep. Some of them are very special. Look at the little sweater. Oh my God, it's so small. Oh, it's adorable. They think they can't keep anything and they get scared. And then they totally stop. They think, no, I don't want to get rid of everything. And so they're totally overwhelmed. Hey, I'm Robyn. I help overwhelmed people shed all of the excess, the clutter, the habits, the beliefs, the people. Let's dive in. Grab your tea and let's go. I don't have my tea here. This is bad. First off, let's break down why sentimental items are sentimental in the first place. So Joshua Becker says sentimental items usually represent one of three things: a relationship, an accomplishment, or an experience. So for me, sometimes I can like look back and be like, oh my gosh, that reminds me of being in high school. I was so young and so free. Or maybe it's like when my babies were born and they were so little, you know, a relationship / an experience. Does that ring a bell to you? Does that like connect with you at all? Let me know in the comments. So the other day I was working out downstairs when a song came on and it totally rocked me. Like it just hit me. Boom. It reminded me of my dad. And my dad passed away last February of 2022. And he was such a great dad growing up. So one time we were driving from the interior of BC to Calgary. It's like a 6-hour drive with my best friend, my brother, me, and my dad. And all of a sudden, Bohemian Rhapsody came on. We were all so excited. We were all literally singing. We were having so much fun. We were laughing. It was so great. So here's the thing. I don't actually need anything to have that memory. Pretty much, I just need to like watch Wayne's World. Thunderbolts and lightning, very, very frightening me. Galileo. And I am transported back in time. And I'm not saying I didn't keep anything from my dad. I kept this awesome coffee mill, which I absolutely love. It reminds me of growing up. I love this. It's so cool. I think it's very cool. It's very sweet. This is fun too. I actually have his ashes downstairs, and I like to go and visit him from time to time. Hey, Dad. I have to tell you about the craziest thing that happened today. Okay, so the ashes might even be hard to let go of, but if it wasn't for his wishes to have them scattered somewhere specific and legal, I might add, but maybe I wouldn't even let them go. I'd be like, oh, no, I can't. He wanted to be scattered, but no, I couldn't. No, obviously that is special. So I'm just editing this video, and I just wanted to point out, it may look like I'm very upbeat about all of this, but I am a person who does like grieve privately, and I just really want to show you how, you know, my relationship with my dad was not defined by things, and that is why I included him in this video. I'm actually getting something to remember him. It's like a really cool glass keepsake my uncle had done for his sister's ashes, and we were like, that is so cool. And so we can choose anybody in the family who wants something, and we can have like a little bit of him with us, which I think is really special, very truly sentimental. But it was a careful decision, right? Like I was like, okay, should I do this? Because I am careful about what I bring in and what I keep, and you know, there's a lot to it. But it's very important that you understand you don't have to get rid of everything. You can keep some things. The things that are special you can keep. I just don't want you getting caught up in keeping things because you don't like the passage of time. Okay, don't even get me started on kids. Their first steps, the first day of kindergarten, the first time that they tell you that they hate you. Memories. So for each baby, I have got this box, and I put in things like their little outfit coming from the hospital. So cute. He was very small. Like this, which is where he made a turkey. I have said it before and I'll say it again. I am a sucker for some turkey artwork. The little hat. And so this box contains some of their artwork, not a lot of it, but just some of it. And funny enough, like as I go through it, I can be like, you know, and I kept like a couple of things, like just a couple of outfits like this. Oh my God, so cute. And what's really funny about this is like, it's mostly baby stuff. Like, look at the little shoes. Oh, Susie, so cute. Oh. A little foot was in this once, okay? A little foot. And look at this. This is a Coke bottle from the Olympics when they came to Vancouver. And so I think one of my kids looked up the value. I can't remember what it is. I'll put it on the screen, but kind of funny. So they each have one of these, and I've been like, don't drink that Coke. Don't drink that Coke. You never know. That could be worth money someday. Pardon the massage face. But I'm just editing this video, and I wanted to point out that normally I'm not like, that could be worth money someday, save it kind of person, but only because it was the Olympics. It was right over in Vancouver, and it's sort of like our kids' keepsake from that. Normally I would not say that, and you know, it's up to you what you do, but something potentially being worth money someday, that's not, no. So in this box, there really isn't that much. I could keep more. But remember one very important thing. The item doesn't hold your memory. It might trigger that memory, but it doesn't hold the memory. So what can you do instead of keeping every single item? Because like, I get it. These items, they feel precious. Put a pin in that one because I have a great tip for that. One thing I need to add here quickly, okay? Don't declutter to other people unless they really, really want it. And maybe they've even said it ahead of time. Hey, friend, you are just passing your guilt at decluttering onto them. We're like, oh, it's okay because I'm giving it to somebody I know. Now, if somebody tries to declutter to you, I need you to repeat after me. Hey, thanks for thinking of me, but no thank you. Try that. And if you've inherited maybe your parents' belongings or someone else's, you might have absolutely terrible guilt at decluttering their things because you might be like, well, these aren't my things to declutter. And you're full of like all of the sentimental ties to them, like the experience and the person and all of that. But I want you to ask yourself this very important question. Would they want you to be unhappy with all of their stuff? Probably not. And you probably should let a lot of it, almost all of it, go. Like, seriously, look through it. Keep a few things if you feel drawn to, but only keep the things that have meaning to you, not because you feel like they wouldn't want that decluttered. That is no bueno for you. So one of the biggest reasons that we actually keep things is that we don't like the passage of time. I mean, I love the passage of time. Actually, I'm totally lying. Now, of course not. I hate it. I'm a nurse, and I often have patients who will say to me, like, weekly, they'll say, don't ever get old. Like, keep in mind, these are older people, and they are like there for some kind of medical reason. So they are not feeling their best. And I 100% understand that. But here's the thing. I kind of want to get old because that means I made it. Like, I always go, well, I hope I do. Yes, there are struggles, there are tribulations and all of that. But wouldn't you rather enjoy your life as you're getting to that destination than be surrounded by a whack of stuff? Because the thing is, you will enjoy your life more if it is somewhat simplified. And I'm not saying you have to go full minimalist. I really, really, really am not. But instead of lamenting the time passing, which is very easy to do, let's just live in the present. And we can look forward to the future, but we're not living in the past, which is so often what is happening when we hold on to these things. So live in the present. You can look forward to the future, like I said. Now, I know it's easier said than done, totally. And believe me, like, my son is graduating this year, and it is not easy looking back. I mean, really, he was just so cute, my little guy. But I know that it's so important to live in this precious moment, because if I am busy living in the past during this precious time, I'm not getting, I'm not enjoying this time. And maybe in the future, when he's like married with kids, I might be like, oh, I'm so sad. Remember when he was graduating? Oh, like, no, I want to be here for that. So how do you even declutter the sentimental items? Like, can you even, or are you just stuck with them forever? No. Number one, I want you to ask what the genius Peter Walsh came up with years ago. And he says, is it a treasure or a trinket? So a treasure is something that actually has a meaning to you. A trinket is something that maybe reminds you of something, but it doesn't really have like a full-on meaning. Like, there's no real connection to that. So like this beaker doll, for example, that my husband gave me when we first started dating, that is very special to me. It has a very fond memory, and I will keep it forever. It's also very small. This, for example, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't have a lot of trinkets left to show you, but I did come across this, and this is for like stringing up Christmas cards and stuff. And so I was like, yeah, it does remind me of when I got it, but definitely falls into the trinket category. It really isn't. Maybe gives you a chuckle or something, doesn't pull at the old heartstrings. I also want you to ask yourself, if you're keeping something based on a memory, is it a happy memory? So I used to wear this sweater to work when I was a 911 dispatcher, and I would wear it every night shift, okay? Is that a happy memory? Not really. I mean, I was working. Like, it's not a bad memory, but it's certainly not worth keeping just because. It's almost like I'm keeping it out of tradition. Totally unnecessary. The other thing is that consider all of your sentimental items should fit on like a dining room table. So like the size of this island, basically. All of your sentimental items. This is again from Peter Walsh. He's so smart. Which means that they should be few and far between. Treasures are rare. If an item triggers a memory, but if you declutter it otherwise, I want you to ask yourself, what could I do? I don't really need this, but I want to keep the memory. You need to write that down. You could even make a file on your phone of you telling a story, and it would be so great to have. And you could put like stories, and nobody even knew how the goat got on the roof as a different folder, or have a book and just write down those memories. Take a picture of that thing or of those kids' things, whatever, and then let it go. I actually have 73 decluttering tips in this PDF here that you can download to help you in your decluttering journey with things like sentimental items or like your kitchen, for example. Now, the most important thing that I want you to remember is asking yourself, why are you decluttering things in the first place? Why am I decluttering things in the first place? What is the ultimate goal in life? Is it happiness? Are things making you happy? See, for me, my ultimate goal is to really enjoy life, to feel like things are lighthearted, freedom, and I just want to feel like I am not bogged down by a bunch of things. I don't like the pressure, I don't like the stress of having a bunch of things. So are the things that I'm keeping making me happy? A few of them certainly are very special to me, and I will keep them. So what is the decluttering mistake that I've made? There's one thing that I remember decluttering that I still kind of regret just a little bit. It's not necessarily that I regret it. It just kind of makes me sad. And I will get to whether or not you need to be happy about decluttering everything in a minute. But it's these cute little mugs from Krispy Kreme. And they had a cute little donut in the bottom. They're adorable. And I bought those with my husband. My husband and I were on like a little trip to the mainland. And we went to Krispy Kreme and we bought 4 little mugs, and it was so great. And my kids, they used them when they were little, but they're very small. But the thing is, it's not really a regret though, because they would probably never have been used again. Maybe a few times by my grandkids. And I do remember my grandma had like a couple of little mugs that we would use when we would go to her house. So it's things like that where I'm kind of like, but then at the same time, I'm like, but why keep them? Like really? Instead, I have these super cool little monster mugs that I made with my kids, which is a super positive memory. It was really fun. We had a good experience. All of them made something. So that is something that I feel very tender about keeping for now, but maybe I won't forever. So what is my regret? Well, I actually have 2. So the first thing is starting with and decluttering other people's things. Never, 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 never start there when you are decluttering. That's their stuff to declutter, and so often we're kind of like, oh yeah, I got all this stuff here. That could go, that could go, that could go, and it's not even your stuff, it's somebody else's stuff. No, 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 no. How we do it is we start with our own stuff, we lead by example. We might be like, gosh, it sure is nice in here now that this is decluttered. And people will be like, oh yeah, it is. Maybe I'll start decluttering my own stuff. Because the thing is, like, they might have sentimental things and maybe they wanted to like part with those things on their own terms. Maybe you're like postponing decluttering your own decluttering because it's easier. And the other regret that I have is actually not starting sooner. I wasted so much time starting with other people's things, but also just wasted time in general. But actually, I'm happy that I have decluttered. And also, I really want to remind you to remember, you don't have to be over the moon and excited to declutter things. Like sometimes you can be a little bit sad to let something go, but you know it's right to let it go. Just be satisfied that it has met the right criteria for you to let it go. It's okay to be a bit sad, but revisit your reason to declutter every single time. Look at this book. This is my great-grandmother. She gave this cookbook to my family in 1991. And it's so cool because in it, she explains her family history, which is so cool. Now, I looked through this cookbook and it contained a lot of salads that had a lot of Jell-O. So I'm not necessarily going to make a lot of these recipes, but I am definitely never decluttering this cookbook. It is definitely sentimental. One area that can be very hard for us is baby and kid things. But even if you don't have babies anymore, or maybe you never did, this section is going to explore another big reason why we struggle to declutter the sentimental things, and it has some of my favorite strategies for decluttering. How do you declutter your baby stuff? Now, recently I decluttered my baby stuff. I know you're wondering, you got emotional, didn't you, Robyn? We'll save that to the... Now grab your tea and let's go. Now, lots of the time when we struggle with decluttering our kids and baby stuff, it's because we're realizing our kids are growing up, and it's hard to realize your kids are growing up. Welcome to my son's bedroom. Now today I'm actually going to be decluttering some of my baby's stuff. So I'm going to go in his closet, and this is not easy, and I wanted to make this because I really wanted to show you guys how to tackle decluttering sentimental items. So the funniest thing is when I declutter in my son's room, and I usually help him declutter his closet 1 to 2 times a year, there's one area that often gets missed, and I think you're going to see why in just a second. That would be the baby clothes, and those are up high. Got the boxes down. I'm just gonna grab a couple of other things out. The most important thing though is to set your timer for 30 minutes. Now, this is something that I always like to mention, and I will mention it again, is 30-minute max usually for decluttering. Occasionally, if you're like almost done, sure, if you're on a real roll, go on a little bit, but don't make a huge event of it. Don't make it like a 4 to 6 hour decluttering session. So I am going to set my timer for 30 minutes, and I'm only doing 30 minutes. If I'm not done, then I will come back tomorrow. I grabbed this bag because I like to set up my buckets. The bag for things to donate, things to keep, garbage, and the baby clothes that we're going through. I remember I was sad when my oldest was a newborn and I stopped counting days. I started counting weeks, and then I stopped counting weeks, and I started counting months, and on and on and on. And now it's years, and now he's 16. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to go through some of the things in the closet. Now, the reason why my son is not involved in this process is because today we're just dealing with baby stuff that's in the closet that mostly is more my sentimental items, but a few of them I want to keep for him. So working as quickly as you can, just get stuff out of there. So sometimes you need to actually hang on to a couple of things just to neutralize the feeling. Some things we have, and it is just such a strong emotion when you think about decluttering that piece of your baby's things. Just hang on to those few things. Like if you can get rid of most of it, just hang on to a couple of things. One day you might find that those emotions are actually neutralized and you can let those go. So here's a good example of why sometimes it's a good idea just to set things aside to see if your feelings will neutralize a little bit. If you feel like you're getting rid of too much at once. This is a Yo Gabba Gabba shirt that we had. So they all wore it, and I don't mind decluttering it at all now. So I'm going to do that. Now that I'm up here, my cats are up here, so they want to see what's happening. My cats are loving this process. But when I'm decluttering things, I have certain rules that I follow, and I have a PDF that I will link down below. You can download it if you want to go along with those things, and I have updated it to include sentimental items and a few other things such as Swedish death cleaning questions. So when it comes to baby stuff, a lot of times I like to save 1 to 2 things from each stage of life. So 3 to 6 months, 6 to 12. This is something my mother-in-law made, and it's beautiful. So I'm gonna hang on to this, and I'm going to let my kids pass that on to their kids if they want, and if they choose not to keep it, that is fine. But for now, I will hold on to it until there are grandchildren in the picture. So you might have heard me before discuss Swedish death cleaning. Now the author, Margareta, she mentions that there are these instincts, and one of the instincts is the fear of death instinct. Now, the thing about the fear of death instinct is that we all have it. We are all growing older, and our kids are growing older. Now, our kids growing older is sort of a part of that fear of death instinct. Like, we recognize they're never going to be babies again. And even though there are things that aren't amazing about babies, like the sleep deprivation, for example, we still often long for those days. But it's really important that you still declutter things. You can't keep them forever. So something that you will see me not use a lot of is baskets. I will occasionally in some places like hall closets for winter hats and things like that. But for the most part, things like this, initially I got these for, little kid underwear and little kid socks, but now they just sit empty, or they will be filled with things and not end up being useful. So I am going to donate these as well because somebody else can use them. Here's another little hat my mother-in-law made, so we'll keep that. So this is a broken hat from Disneyland. I kind of want to hang on to this until we go to Disneyland one more time and just sort of fix it. I will chat with my son and see if he wants to keep it. I have a set of ears that I like as well. We like to dress up when we go to Disneyland. Here's a karate belt. My son stopped karate. We're not going to hang on to that. If you're curious what this on the door is, one year for Valentine's Day, I came down every night and I put something I love about my kids on a heart and stuck it to their front or to their bedroom door, and so they each put them in their closet, and they really like it, and they actually were sad I didn't do it the next year, so I'll probably do it this coming year. So I've got a couple of school things here. And I think we can pretty much just let this stuff go. My son wrote some stories. I have a stack of them in here, and I think that we will hang on to those. But for the most part, I think all of this can get recycled, which is great. So I'll put it in the garbage bag, but then we'll put it in the recycling. I like things with their hands on it, so I might hold that and put that in my son's little keepsake box, which I will show you. I did show that in a different video, but I'll show you. But I think it's important to keep a box of keepsakes. I have this box of keepsakes for my son. So this is my youngest keepsake box, and I have shown this before, but this is the little outfit we brought him home in the hospital, and I loved it. I mean, he did not wear it much, but artwork and a couple of pieces of baby clothing, so not a lot. And I've got a few mementos from when he was in the hospital, little hat, things like that, but really not much. I probably won't even keep all of that stuff in there in the long run, but for now, those are things I don't want to declutter. And these are things that you come back to from time to time. I'm not going to say it's easy going through all of their artwork and things, but I know that as life goes on, you can't hold on to things forever. And you will, the longer you live, accumulate more things. And at the end of your life, you don't want to be leaving things for people to go through. Right now, my mom and my aunts are helping my grandparents go through their things because they're downsizing. And we're lucky that my grandparents are still with us right now, but it's a huge, huge task for people to undertake. And so as far as kids things go, I think it's nice to keep a few little things here and there. My son drew all these beautiful flowers. I think it's very lovely, but like, should I hang on to it? No. What I will do is take a photo. Now, even the kids' artwork sometimes is hard to declutter when they're really young. But as they get older, you will look at, you know, just a smear of paint and think, I could let that go. Some things are a bit better, so you'll take a photo and you can hang on to a couple of them. I mean, you do what you want to do. Don't mind my son's mess here. He's dealing with a Lego disaster. And yes, I did make a video on Lego. But as you saw in that video, there were a lot of totes, and I'm still struggling with that with my husband. So preschool pictures, glued cereal on a piece of paper, something like this. No, that doesn't really speak to their personality. So the good news is the preschool ones are really easy to declutter. So that is pictures done. So this is each of my kids' baby books. As you would imagine, the first is filled up better than the second and third, but I will hang on to those, and I'll put these back in this particular closet. But we're almost done this closet. Isn't that exciting? And I don't know how much time I have left because it's not showing up on my watch, but IKEA picture, donate. And I have a friend who made soap. It helps the closet smell good, so I like to keep the soap in there. What's this? Garbage, yay. When I am decluttering things, I recognize that I can't hold on to everything. And I use a system when I'm decluttering, like my decluttering PDF, because I want to be systematic when I'm doing it. I don't want everything to be based on emotion. I want to make sure that I am like going through my simple questions. So when I'm going, you know, picking up a piece of clothing and I think, you know, this reminds me of when my child was a baby, like, is it a particular memory that is so wonderful that I don't want to declutter that because I might risk forgetting that memory? I mean, if that is the case, doesn't seem likely, but if that is the case, sure, hang on to that. I mean, of course. And I'm not saying declutter everything. I definitely hang on to a few things of my kids. So this is the last box of baby clothes, really. And I say baby when, you know, some of them are probably from age 6, but these are little shorts. These ones, I really liked these. They had a really cute little pink shirt that went with them, which was so nice. And I am sorry, my cats, every time I'm doing anything, they want to be involved. And it's also really hard letting go of things that you know they didn't really wear. The good news is a lot of these things are in really good condition, which is really kind of strange. So I can actually sell them to the consignment place, which is really nice. So this is actually a lot easier than I thought it would be. I think the harder things were the knit things my mother-in-law made, because I really love my mother-in-law. She's a great, great lady, and she can't knit anymore because her hands, she's got bad arthritis. So I think that's really sad. This is all shorts. Here I thought I was going to be like going through emotional baby stuff, and it literally is just all shorts. But if it is just a normal memory, like them being a baby, you're probably not going to forget them being a baby. And I just don't think people should hang on to many, many things just because they're afraid they're going to forget something, especially when it's a whole stage of childhood. You're probably not going to forget that. I can actually just put these all back in here and take them to the consignment place because they're all in great shape. And the one other thing that we pulled out of there was this Playmobil. I didn't even realize we still had this. I always thought Playmobil was so cool. And when I was a kid, we did not have any. I don't know if it was just too expensive. It could have been. But I always thought it was so neat. So I loved when my kids had it. But the problem with Playmobil is there are like a million pieces. And they're also random. So I don't think I'm going to be too sad letting this one go. And my timer just went off just as I was putting things back. Plus, I ran downstairs for a minute to help my husband with something. So I actually think I'm right on time. So I'm just going to throw those things back in the closet. And then we are done. And I will show you how nice and clean it is. And Oliver is done cleaning up his Lego. Look how nice that looks. We also decluttered his old bookshelf and tidied up his books. So remember these tips when you are decluttering. Number one, make sure you're feeling good that day. Make sure it's not, day 27 of your cycle. Make sure that you set your timer for 30 minutes and you don't go overboard, because even if you have a ton of stuff to go through, you can always come back to it and do it quickly. I have decluttered so much of my house, it does not take me long. You will get there. The other thing, make sure that you do keep things from different stages of your baby's life. And also make sure that you are really evaluating if it's a good memory, if it's just a memory of them being a baby. Maybe it's something you really liked, like a piece of clothing, and you just loved it in them. There's nothing wrong with keeping that. If it's something like your mother-in-law made, like these beautiful pieces of clothing, and you want to hang on to them for your grandkids, I don't see anything wrong with that. Just remember, you can't hold on to everything. And remember, take pictures of their artwork. At the very least, it's fun to look at them. So again, about this wedding dress, I love this wedding dress. It doesn't fit anymore. Should I keep it? And I know quite often we're like, what should I do with things like this? Now, for me, it's the sentimental, of course. I am still married and I love my husband. Now, if you are not married any longer, whether your spouse has passed away, in that case, maybe it would be very sentimental and it would be something worth hanging on to. And as we've talked about, some things are trinkets, some things are treasures. This would be a treasure. And even for me right now, I won't say that this is something that I feel like I need to have in my possession. I certainly am not using it on a regular or semi-regular basis. However, this might be sentimental for somebody else in the future. Now, I only have sons. So if I was to have a granddaughter, maybe this would be sentimental to her. Now, in the past, I'm going to put my arm down because it's getting sore. In the past, people have said to me, maybe your granddaughter won't be sentimental about that. In that case, say I only had one, I'd be like, okie dokie, and I would happily sell it, pass it on for that one charity that makes makes dresses for little babies that passed away. I would so happily pass that on. Like, look at this gorgeous, gorgeous embroidery. I mean, it's a beautiful dress. So for me, at this point in time, I don't feel like I need this, but this is something where I feel like it could be a family heirloom. I don't feel that way about much. Maybe my ring, maybe my dress, or a couple of other things, but not much. Now, family heirlooms are rare, so you need to take that into consideration. But when you are deciding whether or not to keep something like this, ask yourself, is it a treasure? Is it a trinket? Is it a positive memory? Is it, like, say you were divorced and you were like, I don't really want it. Then you could pass that on. Say you were divorced and you were like, I don't really want it, and I don't really want to save it for my daughter or my potential granddaughters. Of course, pass it on. No matter what, you need to do what is right for you. Now, in a lot of these videos I make, people will say like, well, this doesn't work for me, or I don't have the space for this, or blah, 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 blah. I'm like, you need to do what works for you. Do what feels right. So for now, I am hanging on to this. It doesn't take up a lot of space. I have the space and I'm going to save it just in case my granddaughter wants it. This is just an example of one thing that I'm keeping. And believe me, I don't keep a lot. So yes, the fear of death is one of our biggest struggles. Well, definitely one of mine, and might be one of yours. Check out this video here all about Swedish death cleaning, which is so awesome. It gets to the entire crux of why we should be decluttering in the first place. I hope something great happens for you today, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.